to fight for you, just call me 777 and visit churchwall.com.
Your home is more than just walls and windows. It's where life happens. And at Right Choice Construction, we get that. We're not just builders. We're fathers, mothers, neighbors, just like you. And every nail and every beam reflects our commitment to creating a place you're proud to live in. With Right Choice Construction, you're choosing a team that's been perfecting the art of building for years. So build with us, build with experience, build with quality, build with
Even worse, the newspaper.
Deals.com. Great deals just in time for the holiday season at InStateRadioDeals.com. Head to the site right now before they run out.
Hey, gang, this is Bud Foster, former defensive coordinator for the Virginia Tech Hokies. Catch the Fast Lane weekdays 5 to 6 p.m. on BTRN Sports 93.3 FM.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle PT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
Back to the Fast Lane indeed. And yesterday, college football playoff rankings came out. Last week, South Florida was the group of 5 representative, and then Navy happened. This week's new rep, Tulane, and rightfully so. They've got a nice resume, but you could also make the argument for JMU, which a lot of fans have in this area. A lot of people online have made an argument for. Even Kirk Herbstreit himself made an argument for. So today, we're rekindling with Colton Poole, Group of 5 reporter from HeroSports, on the Group of 5 debate between American teams and then JMU, because that's what it's looking like right now, where even the East Carolina Pirates may have a shot to make it if certain scenarios happen. First off, Colton, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. Yeah, I'm glad that everyone is totally agreeing on the Group of 5 team that should be in. There is zero debate, and everyone is being super polite about it. It's just, a really nice time on the internet,
Oh, absolutely. And, yeah, absolutely, man. It's I have never seen, even in my time at Liberty, I have never seen Group of 5 team fan bases go at it so hard like I've seen JMU versus Tulane, or JMU versus South Florida, or South Florida versus Tulane, North Texas fan base even in the mix. It's been something to watch on Twitter, man. It's been quite funny to watch. You get your popcorn out late at night if you're just scrolling on Twitter, and you get to see a whole bunch of different comments. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it is hilarious, and it's entertaining, of course, there are some comments that you wish you wouldn't happen, but at the same time, I think I would rather have fired up fan bases that are passionate and engaged, rather than the opposite. So, I'm glad that compared to last year, you look at last year, it was very clearly Boise State. There was very little argument for any other team to be among the G5 teams in the
Absolutely.
CFP, and this is a lot more interesting, to be honest. You have 3+ teams that have a very good argument to be in the CFP, and granted, people are acting like the season is over, but we still have 2 more regular season weeks left and conference championships. So still at this point, anything can happen.
Absolutely. And you said it best yesterday, I felt like. JMU makes sense, but Tulane also makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Why Tulane, if not JMU, from your opinion? I mean, I've mentioned their resume. I like their resume, but what am I not seeing that people need to look at when you see Tulane ranked over the JMU Dukes?
Yeah, listen, in my mind, I have JMU ranked as the highest G5 team in the country, but I could absolutely see an argument for Tulane. I could see an argument for North Texas at this point. Granted, between the American teams, things will sort themselves out. But when you're looking at Tulane, they unequivocally have a stronger strength of schedule. And something that's kind of irking me about Tulane fans right now is they're like, well, JMU, you should go ahead and schedule better teams. But going into the season, JMU's schedule was looking really solid.
Yeah.
Whether you're looking at non-conference, you're looking at a solid G5 team in Liberty. They've been a disappointment. You have Louisville, who was looking good. They were ranked, and now they're not. And Weber State, people will point at that. So many FBS teams make an have an FCS opponent, so I'm not knocking them to that. And then Washington State, I mean, a middle of the road G5, G6 team. So, and then even looking at in conference, Texas State was supposed to be a better team than they have been, and Old Dominion kind of took a step back after that JMU loss. So, I don't blame JMU for the schedule that they've had, and all they could do is go ahead and win, and that's exactly what they've done. Most of their games have been complete blowouts. Whereas you look at Tulane, though, they have 2 Power 4 wins, and I've said this from the beginning. Whether it's right or wrong, the committee was going to look at that and weigh that heavily. In Northwestern and Duke, which are middle of the road power teams, but Tulane took care of business against both of them. And then getting blown out by Ole Miss, you kind of excuse that. That's one of the top 5, 6 team in the country. And then the one that JMU fans, I'm sure, are going to be pointing at is the loss to UTSA. And not only a loss, but it was a 22-point loss. Yeah. Whereas JMU, they only have the 1 loss, but they haven't been blown out. So it's kind of pick your flavor when it comes to these teams in the G5 right now.
Yeah.
Do you Tulane is 8-2, JMU is 9-1. Do you prefer a team that's winning convincingly than JMU? Tulane has 1 more loss, but strength of schedule. Do you prefer that? Then you go with the Green Wave. So I don't blame anyone for thinking that Tulane deserves that spot, but to me, the eye test. Because not only is Tulane with those wins, they're winning in pretty narrow fashion. They beat East Carolina by 7. They beat Army by 7. They beat Memphis, sure, by 6.
Yeah.
Whereas JMU is top 6 in the country in average scoring margins. So they're taking care of business against the weaker teams. It's tough. But it's made for an interesting debate. I'll tell you that.
C Pool Reporter on Twitter. That's where you can find him. Colton, if JMU beats Washington State, a big opponent on their schedule, yes, they're 5-5, but this was once a Power 5 team. Now in a Pac-12 that's currently depleted, but will be built back up next year. If JMU wins that in great fashion, let's say even more than UVA did at Charlottesville, how serious do you think the committee should look at JMU?
I think the committee is looking at JMU very seriously as it is, and I don't think a 7-point, even a 14-point win against Washington State at home for JMU is going to be enough.
Right.
I think if you're trying to make yourself stand out amongst those other G5 teams, you really gotta, because I think it was North Texas. Yeah, the North Texas took care of Washington State. I think it was 59-10.
Yeah.
Granted, that was earlier in the season, and you could argue, both teams are playing at different levels with different personnel. But if you're trying to compare the two, if it is North Texas that ends up winning the American, if you're JMU, it doesn't necessarily have to be 59-10, but in my mind, it's got to be a very convincing win, because that is going to be, for better or worse, I'm sure, a data point that the committee takes into account.
Colton, I find the funniest thing that the ECU Pirates, a really good team, and they're tied up there with the American. They've got an interesting path where there's a 6% chance that they could make the playoffs. What do you think of the ECU Pirates, who aren't in our backyard, but they're pretty close? And I'm kind of curious on what you think of their strenuous path to not only be in the American Championship, but making a CFP appearance, if at all.
Yeah, it's funny. I think East Carolina is 6th or 7th in my G5 rankings this week, and I've been hearing from ECU fans about how I'm sleeping on them. But I love ECU. They have been in my top 10 for the G5 rankings pretty much all season, and I love that they can win by putting up a great amount of points. I love that they can hold some points, or some teams like Army, for example, 6 points, Coastal Carolina to 0 points. And taking care of business against Memphis at home last week. I think the Pirates are a great team. Now, if you're looking at win-loss record, they're 7-3, and with 3 losses, even if they do win the American, which you would have to in order to make the CFP, you would probably have to see JMU win, or rather lose, a game or two in order for that to happen. But it's sports, man. Anything can happen, right? And so I'm not closing the door on that. Same as I'm not closing the door on Navy either in the American. Whichever of those 4 teams win in that conference, there very well could be a strong argument for that team to make it into the CFP, depending on what happens with James Madison.
Absolutely, and I think there's several paths for several teams, which we touched on last time you were here with North Texas and all them. And I think the most interesting story of the group of 5, Bob Chesney, John Summerall were 2 head coaches rumored to be in the cycle of Power 4 teams looking to fill spots. Bob Chesney, VT, obviously not happening anymore. But John Summerall was supposedly supposed to visit Gainesville. It was announced an hour before the show. 30 minutes later, they said John Summerall canceled this meeting to Gainesville and is no longer on the list now with Florida. What do you think of that, to close it off here on this segment?
Yeah, very interesting. John Summerall is a great candidate for any of those power jobs. I mean, you look at what he's done at Tulane. Granted, Willie Fritz kind of got the ball rolling there at Tulane, but he's done nothing but keep Tulane in the American Conference Championship contention and CFP contention in his 2 years so far at Tulane. And then even going back to Troy, I mean, in the Sun Belt, winning 2 titles there, and and then he also has that SEC experience as an assistant coach. So I think he's got a fantastic resume, and I think it would be smart for any power team to consider him. Personally, I like it when teams go and get a young up and coming coach that has kind of climbed up the ranks like Summerall has, rather than a recycled, previously fired power coach. So I think Summerall, and same with Bob Chesney too. I mean, he has done nothing but just climb up the ranks in NCAA, Division III to FCS, and now in the FBS with JMU. I think he's a great coach as well, and is proving it. I mean, you look at the schedule this year with JMU and what they've done. They have won so convincingly, even if it is a weaker strength of schedule. The Dukes have been phenomenal, both sides of the ball. So both of those guys, it would not surprise me at all. And I mean, I know JMU fans and Tulane fans don't want to hear it, but both of those guys are gonna get Power Four buzz when there's openings.
All right, Colton, let's cap it on this because we got to get to David Cunningham from Tech Sideline to talk James Franklin. But Colton, if you were to choose the 3 teams that are heavy favorites for a CFP spot, who are your top 3?
Top 3, JMU, Tulane, North Texas, in my opinion. Those 3 stand out. And if you're to narrow it down to the top 2 or number 1, I mean, I still have JMU as the number 1 team in the G5, but from this point, if Tulane wins out, based on them being ranked in the CFP rankings last night, I think Tulane is in the CFP. So I would probably consider I would consider the Green Wave the front runner, even though I personally think JMU is maybe more deserving of that spot.
Absolutely. And we'll see as the weeks to come. We've got 2 weeks left before Conference Championship Week. And from there, we'll find out all the answers. Colton Poole, thank you for joining us here today from Group of 5 reporters from HeroSports. Thank you as always for your time, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We'll be right back with David Cunningham of Tech Sideline when we come back. Don't go anywhere. This is the Fast Lane.
Countdown to savings during the Red Tag year-end sales event at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. Holiday savings have started, and this is your last chance to save. Shop local and save more with straightforward pricing, plus exceptional service and selection. Stop the search. Head to the Motor Mile for over 900 pre-owned vehicles to choose from, and a huge selection of new car brands in Southwest Virginia. Honda, Hyundai, Toyota, Subaru, Kia, Chevrolet, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. 11 new car brands, 900 used vehicles, all in one location. The Sheeler Motor Mile gives you choices more than any other dealer in the area. Sheeler owns the finance company. We make it easy to buy with in-house financing. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got the volume. 11 new car brands, over 900 used vehicles, all in one location. Our biggest sale of the year is here. The Red Tag year-end sales event at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com. But hurry, this sale ends when the new year begins.
This holiday season, take a step back in time to the heart of the 1940s. Join us at Cedar Oaks Farm in Bedford, Virginia for The Christmas List, a World War II era radio play recorded live to benefit the National Center for Healthy Veterans. Experience the story of the Bedford boys and their last Christmas before shipping out to serve their country. A moving night of laughter, love, and the true spirit of Christmas, featuring live music, classic sound effects, and a full cast performing just like the golden days of radio.
Jing-a-ling, 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 the lights made to sleep romancing. Ho, through the snow we go.
Performances are December 12th and 13th at 7 p.m. and December 14th at 2 p.m. Tickets are on sale now at cedaroaksfarm.com, with proceeds benefiting the National Center for Healthy Veterans. Come share a nostalgic Christmas at Cedar Oaks Farm, where memories, music, and history come alive.
VTR Sports, powered by ESPN Radio. The games play here. NFL action this week kicks off on Thursday with Bills at Texans after Virginia Tech women's basketball. Then Sunday, a tripleheader that kicks off at 12:30 with Colts at Chiefs, Eagles at Cowboys, and the Buccaneers taking on the Rams on Sunday Night Football. Also, Monday Night Football features a matchup between the Panthers traveling out to Santa Clara to take on the 49ers, with coverage starting at 7 p.m. Catch all the big games in the NFL on VTR Sports, powered by ESPN Radio, 93.3 FM, 1320 AM, the VTR Sports app, and at your smart speaker, open VTR Sports.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
You're listening to 93.3 FM, 1320 AM Lynchburg, W227BG Timberlake, WVGM AM Lynchburg, and WMNA Gretna, Danville, and Southside. As we all know, we talked about in the first segment, James Franklin in his introductory press conference nailed it, by the way, as Ed Lane will tell you in his Fast Take presented by Trost Law, a law firm that you can trust. Now we've got Tech Sideline on the show once again. We had Chris Coleman on yesterday as he had a discussion with Ed, and now we've got a guy that has a way with words, poetic, both on digital paper and in person in press conferences. Ladies and gentlemen, let's introduce David Cunningham of Tech Sideline, who's had a busy week, had to have an emergency podcast, got rewarded with pizza by it, according to Twitter. And today he had to go to James Franklin's introductory press conference. And now he's got a basketball game as Mike Young and co. are taking on Bryant at VT tonight. So thankful to have his time here in the fast lane. David, what was the moment you found out that Franklin was going to be the next head coach? Was it by Pete Thamel, or did a source tell Tech Sideline, hey, get ready, Franklin's the new head coach? It's official. Well, hold on. We'll be sure to get David Cunningham on here in a second. We're not getting him yet for some reason. But in the meantime, stick around. Stick around because David Cunningham will be joining us here in a second. And yeah, I mean, Tech Sideline, they've had a busy time, man. It's been a busy time in Blacksburg as David Cunningham, Chris Coleman, Andy Bitter, they've all been super busy the pod with Tech Sideline. Sorry about that, David. I don't know what happened with technical difficulties, but we're glad to have you on the show. We were just talking about how you had a way with words both on digital paper and in press conferences. And the first question I asked before I realized you weren't there was, what was the moment you found out that Franklin was going to be the next head coach?
Oh, I appreciate it. Sorry, I don't know what happened with the technical difficulties, but appreciate you guys having me on. Monday, gosh, it's Wednesday. That happened on Monday. It's kind of predictable, I think, once it got towards the end. Over the weekend, we'd heard that it was probably going to happen and that we had been preparing for James Franklin for a very long time. And when that news came across, it was about time. And I think you saw today in his opening press conference that he can win over a room very easily. Yeah. His credentials speak for themselves. He's a guy that, when he chooses to retire, will go into the College Football Hall of Fame. He's a Hall of Fame coach with a Hall of Fame resume, and he's coming to Blacksburg. And those guys aren't available very often. Hoagie's got a little bit lucky in this coaching search, but I think they ended up with a really, really good fit. He's not just a very good coach that has no ties to Virginia Tech. He fits this area of the country. He fits this region. He's a terrific recruiter. He's been around the block between Penn State and Vanderbilt and Maryland. He's been so many different places and won. And I think Virginia Tech has a really good opportunity to right the ship in quickly.
Absolutely. And like you said, he killed it in his press conference. I loved listening to every word of it. There was a lot of remarkable quotes from him today. What stood out from you on Front Row when you were listening to James Franklin speak today?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just, first of all, he knows how to work a room, but just his admiration for the university and also for the committee and how diligent they were. I think he had a lot of praise for a lot of the people involved in this whole thing, including athletic director Whit Babcock. He talked about the relentless pursuit from Babcock and the rest of the committee, including Jay Pearson, Ryan McCarthy, his relationship with Bud Foster. I thought that was really neat. That coach on coach relationship that kind of got it over the hump a little bit. Sure. But also, I thought one of the biggest things is how he's ready to get back to work immediately. And you don't necessarily see that from fired coaches. Guys might want to sit out a year or two, or even longer, or never come back. And you can see that James Franklin is still hungry and that he has a chip on his shoulder and he's ready to go coach, and not just coach, but win. And he's ready to recruit. And there were so many things to take away, but a lot of really good ones.
What is different about Franklin's introductory conference compared to Brent Pry? And I don't know if you were there when Fuentes was introduced, but what feels different this time around?
Well, I think this is a big time hire. I mean, this is Virginia Tech going all in, where the Hokies have a coach who was a drive away from playing in the national championship game last year. That just doesn't happen all the time. You don't just find those guys out of the blue. The Hokies had to get a little bit lucky, but with Brent Pry, it was kind of a hope. With this, it's a very sure thing, and sure things don't come around very often. Hokies got lucky in this, but they also did their due diligence and did it the right way. The other thing is, it was such an interesting twist and turn of events the whole time because of how the committee was assembled. 8-person committee. It turned out to really be 5 key contributors, and as a result, you have a lot of kind of leaks throughout this whole process in terms of information getting out. There was a lot of everybody knowing kind of what's going on, but not the whole story. And I think it's very interesting that in most coaching hires, especially Brent Pry, this isn't necessarily directly about the press conference itself, but Whip Babcock hired Brent Pry single-handedly, as he did with Mike Young, as he did with Megan Duffy, the basketball coaches. Well, this was a committee, and everybody kind of played their role. Whip Babcock had a role, but also Brad Hobbs played a little bit of a role. Jay Pearson, Ryan McCarthy, and most importantly, Bud Foster. He came in and sealed the deal. And I think it was so interesting afterwards, away from the podium, talking to some of these people and just getting their perspective on how it all went down. Hearing Ryan McCarthy talk about his first impression of James Franklin, where they walked into James Franklin's house in Georgia, and James Franklin this is the first time meeting him. Yeah. James Franklin had printed out their Board of Visitors presentation from August and the board budget that was passed, in September, and had taken notes about all that stuff. Like, it wasn't just, hey, I'm interested in coaching again. It's, I would like to coach at Virginia Tech, and I want this job. And there's little details like that. Bud Foster, about his relationship going back with James Franklin, and about how he felt very, very good. He had a great quote. He said, "I'm not a gambler, but I was putting everything I had on this, including my lake house. Like, I was all in. I believe so much." It's just so interesting how so much information has come out about this because it was such a different aspect in terms of how the Hokies approached this whole thing.
At the Real D Cunningham from TechSideline.com joining the show today. Different standards than usual, as he's usually on the Around the Commonwealth Mondays, but we're happy to have him here for such an important event. David, what I guess the best question would be, why was Virginia Tech able to be the first team to hire a head coach in all these coaching vacancies, the frenzies and everything? And how are they able to secure Franklin when jobs like Auburn and Arkansas were opening up, and there was worry that James Franklin may have his eye on them, or there was worry that maybe Sexton, who was really involved in this deal, would stretch this out? How was this committee able to get a deal done?
Well, I think it goes back to the timing of it, because if Virginia Tech doesn't fire its coach back in September, in Brent Pry, and doesn't have the opportunity to get ahead of the curve on all this stuff, or if Virginia Tech waits or does it last year or waits until, I don't know, right now, you're off your timing. This just was something where all the stars kind of aligned as far as timing goes, where James Franklin came available about a month into the Virginia Tech search, and the Hokies quickly pivoted. And Bud Foster talked about that today with Ryan McCarthy, how Bud Foster called up James Franklin to give his condolences after he got fired at Penn State, and said, however, we've got a job opening, and kind of pitched him on that. And Franklin said he was interested. And Bud Foster went, "Oh, that's interesting. How about we turn our attention to James Franklin and see if we can go get him?" And the Hokies went and approached him, and it kind of took off from there. And I think the biggest thing, TJ, is that Virginia Tech had a plan. Like, the Hokies went in there and saying, here's our budget. Here's how we're going to approach salaries. Here's how we want to recruit. Here's how we want to do all these different things. And a lot of other schools, as James Franklin talked about a little bit, kind of came at him with just an open pocketbook. Like, hey, we'll write a check for whatever you want. That's not necessarily appealing to a coach like James Franklin, who was just at a place that can shell out all the money it wants, right? To an extent, I should say. The interesting part about Virginia Tech is Virginia Tech said, we're going to put all the resources in, but we're also going to provide an outline of how we want to go about this. We're not just going to take shots in the dark and hope it works out. This is what we want to do, and we want you to be the guy to accomplish it and lead us in that direction. And that was really appealing to James Franklin. It wasn't just hey, like let's hope this works out, and hey, let's write you a check for X so you can use it for Y. It's no, this is what we're doing. And I think that was very appealing to James Franklin because he said, these guys have a plan and there is alignment here. He praised Whit Babcock. He praised President Tim Stans. He praised John Rakovich, the Board of Visitors director. A lot of people were involved in making this happen. And sometimes there are too many cooks in the kitchen. Yeah. I think in this instance, the Hokies kind of had a pretty good balance of a lot of different things.
How much James Franklin, as you know, really praised Whit Babcock in the press conference today. Do you think that favors Whit Babcock and maybe keeping his job for another year or two, or do you think the job circulation is going to keep continuing?
Well, I'm not sure. I don't know how much of what Franklin has said has anything to do with Babcock's job, just because I think they're kind of correlated a little bit, not a ton. But I do think it's interesting that Babcock was very involved in this. Ryan McCarthy, Bud Foster, Jay Pearson all talked about how if Whit Babcock wanted to, he could have just kind of swiped everything out of those guys' hands, the committee's hands, and run with it when they found out that, hey, we're going to go after Franklin. He's our number one candidate. We're going to go all in. But he let the guys do their thing. He let Bud Foster kind of be the one to be a buffer between Franklin and the rest of the committee. He let Jay Pearson build those relationships. He let Ryan McCarthy kind of handle the lawyers and the agent side of it all. He let those guys work their things out. And at the same time, he set the committee up for success by scheduling the meetings and doing all the behind the scenes stuff that goes unnoticed. I'm not sure what that means as far as his job and where the Hokies go from here as far as the athletic director position. But man, what a hire. And it wasn't just him. There were a lot of people involved, but he was certainly one of them. And I think he should deserve some of this credit, even though he has messed up the Virginia Tech football program over the last couple of years. This, hopefully, is something that fixes it and rights some of those wrongs.
David, we'll cap it off on this. One of the best quotes I thought that came from Franklin was towards the end. He was asked about his ability to be able to recruit in Virginia. And he took it a step further and said, we can have a great ability to recruit in Virginia, but if we want to recruit from all cylinders, we got to make Virginia Tech appetizing. Like, I don't want to go away from picking up high school players, but I know we got to be there with NIL. I know we got to be there with the transfer portal. We just can't live and die by the transfer portal. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I thought those comments were pretty spot on. You're talking about a coach who has won in so many different ways over the years, whether it was recruiting the right kind of guys at Vanderbilt or using transfer portal to get some guys at Penn State or recruiting 4 or 5-star guys, right? But you have to figure out how best to win at your school. It varies. And I thought the comments he had talking about, hey, winning at Virginia Tech is not the same as winning at Penn State. It takes different things. You have to know the institutional knowledge and the people there that are already succeeding. At the same time, you have to be able to recruit when you need to recruit from the portal and from the high school ranks. And I think he's going about it with the right mentality. And the Hokies have the resources, TJ, to go do that now. I mean, they are supplying Franklin with a war chest of in terms of revenue and resources to say, hey, we're serious about this. Let's go get guys, both in the portal, but also in the high school ranks. And I think you're going to see over the next 2 weeks, signing days, 2 weeks from today, I think you're going to see a lot of high school kids become interested, including guys who might be visiting this upcoming weekend for the Saturday game against Miami. That's a noon kick. And I think you're going to see a lot of high school recruits on the sidelines, not necessarily because of the team's performances this year, but because of the buzz around James Franklin and who he is as a recruiter.
Absolutely. And a home run hire for James Franklin of Virginia Tech, just like when Tech Sideline hired the real D. David Cunningham, who puts out a lot of great content. David, thanks for stepping onto the fast lane, man, and excited to listen to Mike Young and his team take on Bryant later tonight, and hope you have a ball watching basketball tonight, man.
Much appreciated, TJ. Thank you for having me on, man.
Yes, sir. And that's all that'll do it here for the Fast Lane. Now on to pregame for Virginia Tech that you can listen to for free on Virginia Tech basketball. Like I said, that's all for us to the Fast Lane. We'll see you tomorrow, 5 to 6 p.m. Now, let's get on with basketball.
I don't think you can compare Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes unless Patrick Mahomes goes and rallies off 6 or 7